Kieran, testing, 1, 2, 3. Yep.
Almost. Are we ready? I'm going to assume I've got IT and we're recording at this point. So we will call this meeting to order at 6:01 p.m. Welcome. I'd like to call this special meeting of the Encinitas Planning Commission to order at 6:01 p.m. Please turn off your cell phones or set them to vibrate. Agendas and speaker slips are available in the back of the room. Roll call. Let the record reflect that 4 of the planning commissioners are present, with Commissioner Ryan absent. Next item is Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Announcements. I don't know that it got into the agenda yet, but we will be canceling the April 7th regular Planning Commission meeting. I just wanted to confirm we were doing that because we weren't going to have a quorum, and unless anything's changed, we'll continue with that cancellation. And we will also be scheduling a special meeting on April 28th, essentially to replace that meeting at 6 p.m. And this meeting will be properly noticed through normal city notification channels. I'm mentioning it here as a courtesy to the public. Normally in special meetings, we don't have oral communications, but I think we, as a courtesy also, and since it wasn't announced or made clear that there were no oral communications, we will have oral communications tonight. So, Dina, do we have an oral communication?
We do. We have 2 this evening. First up is Gerald Ann Kessler.
Okay.
I would like to speak about the environmental nightmare housing project on Melba Road that is slated to take down a mature grove of Torrey pines, 173 trees, 30 smaller trees, and native shrubs, along with demoing not 1 but 2 or 3 beautiful historical homes built in 1938 or possibly earlier, all based on the ill-fated density bonus law AB 2345. The latest update on this environmental nightmare project is the Torrey Pacific and Brian Staver are refusing to sign off on 2 cypress historical boundary trees as heritage trees, which we feel were possibly planted by Anton van Amersfoort. He was the original owner of the Botanical Gardens and a member of the Water District, and also owned the Staver property. Brian also is objecting to the row of mature Torrey pines on Melba Road that are city-owned trees being made as a grove of heritage trees. I don't think he has any say in the city-owned trees, but nevertheless, it demonstrates on how out of touch he is with the Encinitas Climate Action Plan or working with the neighborhood. I also would like to mention that the Historical and Cultural Report by Cogstone does not comment on the other 2 buildings built in 1938. When we spoke with an architectural historian, they stated that when 2 or more historical buildings are on a property, they can be placed in a category that qualifies them for a possible cohesive collection of historical district. Added with the unique character of the tree line, this represents the rural look of Encinitas in the 1930s, which is not present at any other place in Encinitas. I've already talked to 3 local Native American tribes about this property, and they have stated in the Cogstone report this area is positive for cultural resources. Lastly, I want to mention how convoluted the process has been for us. Our group has been diligently asking for the records of this environmental nightmare housing project so that we can inform the neighborhood and educate them. The second submission was never completely done. It left many unanswered questions that we thought would be answered in the third submissions, but those questions still remain unanswered. We have several engineers in our working group, and they are left confused and disillusioned that this process is acceptable. The onslaught of 1,000 pages and confusing, inadequate documents that don't tell the full story of the hydrology and drainage, the housing requirements needed, the biology report is jacked up, only mentions lizards. We all know that that's not true. We hear coyotes and owls and see bobcats, and of course the monarch butterflies are ample, along with many other species. This process has left us feeling confused, like they just want us to spin our wheels, which is not fair to the longtime tax-paying senior residents of the community. This is why I continue to ask to help the community make this beautiful piece of property into open space with soft green infrastructure funding. It's ideal for an outdoor STEM lab or an annex to the botanical gardens or similar to the setup of the San Diego Park. Please support the community with fundraising for the last piece of open space for old and new Encinitas. Thank you for listening.
Okay, our second speaker is Jonathan Soros.
Thank you. I'm Jonathan Soros, Regional Director of the World Economic Forum. Our analysts have put together a comprehensive plan that we believe will be able to minimize any economic slowdowns should the coronavirus resurge due to any future variants. We've been in contact with the White House, the local military, Federal Emergency Management Commission, FEMA. And we're reaching out now to local municipalities and businesses in order to identify any of the unvaccinated individuals, which we're going to be attempting to round up and relocate to the Federal Emergency Management Center detention facilities. And we're modeling this off of the Australian model. Now, they had rounded up individuals who were coronavirus positive. We're taking preemptive measures in order to prevent a resurgence by detaining the unvaccinated. Now, some people may call this concentration camps. That would be irresponsible. These are health centers, and we believe that the public is ready to accommodate
Excuse me,
such
sir, I didn't
situations.
get your credentials. Could you repeat them for me, please?
It's Jonathan Soros from the World Economic Forum, Regional Director. And we've seen individuals now very compliant with some of the rules. We see people wearing masks when they're out walking their pet and they're the only person on the block. We see people wearing masks when they're by themselves driving their car. And surveys conducted on the boardwalk have shown that the general public, many are willing and able to accept such dramatic situations. Now, these are going to be fed 3 meals a day with some accommodations, entertainment. There's going to be a drag queen story hour. They'll have CNN piped in to be able to keep up with current events. But we think this is one of the best ways that we can prevent more lockdowns and further hyperinflation. And we've already seen such similar situations. Executive Order 9035 gives the president the authorization to do that. So we're looking forward to moving as soon as possible, and we'll be keeping in touch with local municipalities and local business leaders in order to identify the unvaccinated. Anybody who's going to be resisting such measures on social media will have their post identified through the AI systems and blocked out. So if we have somebody like the New York Post or some of the right-wing outlets publishing stories denouncing what's happening, calling it tyrannical, un-American, we're going to have those posts blocked. We've been in communication with Twitter and Facebook. Those are going to be violating the policies of harmful and dangerous content. So we think we have all bases covered. We think we're going to be able to move with the plan as soon as possible. There's going to be minimal disruptions, but the general public has been primed to accept such things. We've seen compliance over in Australia, and we're sure that we'll be able to accomplish it here one way or another. So we look forward to cooperating with you to just help keep everybody safe.
Did you have questions, Kevin, or no? Okay, thank you.
Sounds good to everyone? Well,
We can't respond to
Can't
oral
respond.
comments. They're off. They're not agendized, so the Planning Commission is only allowed to discuss items on the public agenda, but oral comments allows for anyone to get up and speak for 3 minutes. So,
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's see. Are there any changes to the agenda? No changes to the agenda that I see, so we will now move on to, well, actually, we won't. There are no consent calendar items either, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so we will move on to the regular agenda. On tonight's regular agenda, we have 2 items. Item 8A, which is the Bird's Eye Kitchen Expansion, case number multi 004830 2021. This is a public hearing to consider a minor use permit modification and coastal development permit to modify an existing restaurant, Bird's Eye Kitchen, with alcohol service to expand into an adjacent vacant suite and change its ABC license from type 42 to type 47, and rescind the previous use permit associated with 542 North Coast Highway 101. The project is located at 540 and 542 North Coast Highway 101 in Leucadia. The second item is item 8B, Planning Commission Annual Report and Work Plan. This is a public hearing to review and adopt the Planning Commission's Annual Report and Work Plan. So with that, we will start with item 8A. We begin with a staff report presented not by Associate Planner Jade Chosa, but apparently Kevin Parker. So it sounds like you must be standing in for Jay.
Absolutely. Good evening, Commissioners. Thanks for the introduction. We'll get right to it. This is the Bird's Eye Kitchen Expansion Project, multi 4830 2021, use 4831 2021, and coastal development permit 4832 2021. So the site location is was 2 former restaurants. Curated was the last previous restaurant in that site at 542. Bird's Eye Kitchen is currently operating out of 540, the South Suite, and they're looking to expand restaurant-to-restaurant use to the North Suite. What is the modification? Currently, they have a Type 42 license, which is for beer and wine, and they're going to be moving that to a 47 license. Previously, the curated restaurant had a Type 47. However, just to make, as a cleanup item, we're going to remove all permits there and re-permit it tonight. The zoning is in the North Commercial Mixed 1 zone, part of the specific plan in the North Corridor, and it's also in the General Commercial Zone. So restaurant use is allowed with a minor use permit for alcohol. This is the existing conditions. As you can see, we're underway with the street improvements. So for the minor use permit modification, we're modifying the existing 2015 permit of the 42 to a 47 to expand into both suites. And as we mentioned, we're going to be revoking the Type 47 for bread and barley, and we're going to have just a 47 for both suites. This does require a coastal development permit because it's in the overlay zone. And this is part of your packet. You will see on their plans, this is the floor plan. So the tenant improvement will just be to remove a non-load bearing wall between the 2 suites so that there's access and make one larger dining. And part of our conditions of approval are to make sure that the building, it gets through all the building permits properly. As it increases the occupancy load, there will be some improvements needed with the restrooms and so forth. So that is condition 4. And they're also going to be able to have access between the kitchens. So to summarize, there's no new floor area, so therefore no change in parking supply or requirements. I did want to address that we will be proposing to add an additional condition of approval to ensure that from the 2015 covenant and that approval, we're going to keep the valet agreement on site. So we will work out the wording on that and get that back to you guys. Again, to summarize, the hours will be extended on the weekends. However, the alcohol service hours will remain Monday through Sunday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And that was what was previous. Now on Fridays and Saturdays, that will be increased to midnight indoors. condition of approval, alcohol 21, will ensure that there is no noise outside and no entertainment proposed, but all windows and doors will be closed by 10 p.m. And so therefore, there won't be any patio service after 10 p.m. with alcohol. The exterior alcohol service, again, is 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And one of the important conditions is that food service shall be available during the hours of operation. Since this is a family restaurant, they do not have a full bar. It's just a limited bar, but there will be now spirits available. Working with our sheriff's department, we did receive a comment that the applicant should provide video surveillance on both the interior dining and publicly accessible areas, exterior of the premises, and the applicant has agreed to that. So we will be putting together a condition of approval stating such requirement so that they're in full cooperation with SDSO, San Diego Sheriff's Officers. There was a citizen participation meeting on December 22nd. There was no attendance. Also, we did not receive any notifications once the public notice was mailed for this hearing. Staff does recommend the approval of this Bird Eye Kitchen expansion with a multi 4830 2021, use 4831 2021, and coastal development permit 4832 2021. And again, we will plan to add a specific condition. It would be specific condition SCA number 5, that all covenants, prior approvals related to the valet shall remain in full force and in effect. And furthermore, we will add another specific condition for the Sheriff's Department condition of video surveillance compliance. I'm happy to answer any questions, and this concludes presentation. The applicant is in attendance and has agreed to all conditions of approval if he has any questions for the applicant as well.
I was going to back up. I forgot to do disclosures. Are there any disclosures? Nope. No. Okay, no disclosures. So are there any questions of clarification of staff?
I have one.
Okay.
Kevin, I know, are any allowances being made for anywhere on the corridor for the parking pods? Because I know we have the adjacent parking. We also have, I don't know, somewhere between 13 and 16 spots across the 101 and the parking pod. Have we figured out how we're going to allocate that in terms of our local businesses, or is that just unallocated?
I can go ahead and answer that question.
Thank you, Anna.
Of course. So those parking pods are not being used for private use, so they shall remain available to the public. So we do not use those to count towards the required parking.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Welcome.
That's all I had.
Okay. If there's no other questions for clarification, we will move on to open the public hearing. And does the applicant wish to address the commission? You don't have to. And I will also, okay. And if there's any public comment, you're welcome to come up afterwards and rebut or discuss. But and I'll probably leave the public hearing open, and if we do have any questions during any discussion, we can bring you up too. So, okay. And so, Dina, do we have any no public comments?
No public
no public
speakers.
comments. Hop into deliberation.
I would support approval. I'll make a motion unless you guys want to hear talk about it.
Yeah. My only comment was they answered with the additional condition, so I'm good.
I'd make a motion to approve the project per the staff recommendations for the minor use permit and coastal development permit.
With the
added conditions. as
the
stated
added
by the
two
planner.
conditions. Yeah, great. Do we have a second?
A second.
Okay. Any discussion? No? Call a question. All projects should be this easy. Thank you.
And they should arrive more swiftly.
Yeah. Just Now we're waiting for the computer. There we go. Good. That's it. You're good. Yeah, thank you. Just a couple of notes. Okay. So then we will move on to item 8B, which is the Planning Commission Annual Report and Work Plan. I don't think there are any disclosures, and is there a staff report this time from Anna?
I do not have anything specific to state. I tried to capture all of the prior comments, so if you have any changes, I'm happy to make them.
Okay. Any questions of staff? If not, I've got one or two, pretty minor though. On page 13, I don't know if we can bring that up. I was just curious whether the goals are in priority order once they get down below the, once they get down below current plan as time permits, are they 1, 2, 3, 4 in order of priority?
They're not specifically on page 13 that you're referring to. I can try to get a better read on those. I think the first few, they're not in any very specific order. I attempted to, let's put it that way.
Yeah. I guess what I would want to do is at least note that they are or are not. It sounds like they're not, so I don't want to send something up and imply that we have applied a priority if we haven't.
Right, 'cause now it implies that community character analysis is our
Yeah.
number one, second-tier priority, which I don't know if that is true or not.
Yeah, and I don't know that we want to go through and necessarily sort, because quite frankly, I think it's the city council telling us what they want done, or we can do it as we go through the year, but use this as our reminder follow-up file, so to speak. So, but I really want to hear what the commission thinks. Any feeling one way or the other?
I don't see any need to prioritize them. I think as things can get fitted into the agenda or the schedule, we can do them, but.
Yeah, because there may be different size things that can fit in better. So are you open to putting a note in there that says these numbers do
In no
not imply?
particular order?
Yeah, no particular order, or it's not?
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
And
And,
I'd say long-term goals could go with the same addition.
yeah, I think each one of them underneath the 3 different categories, there should at least be a note at the top that says the numbers do not imply an order within each one of the 3 categories, a priority within each one of the 3 categories, just as long as it's clear.
Now, our current goals also, it's hard to say that, I don't think we've spent any time prioritizing those. They're just there.
Yeah, that, I'm saying
So
put a
that-
put a
this
blanket
applies
statement that
for
covers
a
all
blanket
3.
that covers
Yeah.
all.
Obviously, we do current goals first, and then we do as time permits, and then we do long-term later. But I don't want to imply that underneath the big categories, that the 1, 2, 3 is any way saying that we will do, what's the first one? I think you used the community character example, that isn't necessarily the first one to be done if we have time that permits.
And it may be that some of the feedback that council may choose to provide would be prioritizing some of those goals. Saying of the current goals, this number 6 or 8 or 9 would be the most important. But, yeah, perhaps we should just have, instead of numbering, because people are going to be confused. They're going to assume that we think Senate Bill 9 is our single most important priority for this year,
Yeah.
which it's important, but so is everything else.
So-
I'd be okay with the change you've suggested.
So it sounds like, Susan, I kind of saw a yes, you're okay? You,
Yeah, I kind of have a feeling that we might want to identify our top 3, something like that. On a big list like this, you've got 12 plus 5 plus 6. You know, that's a lot of
Yeah.
items. So we might want to ask council to identify their top 3. Something like that might help give us a little more direction.
yeah. I'm looking for input.
I tend to think that the size of these are in scale are different. Like the omnibus code cleanup might happen in one meeting, and if staff can say, hey, you're light on this meeting, stick it in, just get it done. But something like Senate Bill 9 might be 3 or 4 meetings, and it would be hard to prioritize everything in that top category. Like if you prioritize only the heavy lifting ones, then you may never get just some of the simple ones done.
So maybe a second sentence after saying the priority is in no certain order, asking for feedback from the council under each category of which are their top 3 priorities would be helpful to, if they could email back to staff or discuss it during the adoption and give us some feedback. We'll focus on those first. Staff will focus on those first if they give us direct feedback. So I'm open to that, and I think it's a good idea. Because otherwise, if we try to spend time setting a priority, we'll be stirring the pot, so to speak, only to have it stirred one more time after we do it. So I'd rather get it from the council and get their priorities first and foremost.
Can I mention,
I'm getting so I'm taking that as consensus.
I'm looking at the numbering, and I'm trying to look from this short list on page 13 and match it up with the numbers on page 15 and 16, and they don't quite line up. I think mobility element on the chart has been moved up to position 2, which means if I say, oh, I really like item 9, if I look here on the blue section, 9 is native plant ordinance.
So which one?
I don't know.
If
I
we're
think-
saying that the priority order doesn't matter, I think
Then they
the
should
question
match
is to
is
make
the
a
only
match.
thing.
Yeah, okay.
Because
So-
otherwise, people will refer to them as by number 1 or number
Yeah.
3. And different people will look at it in different places.
Yeah.
So I would say easiest would be to just change page 13,
Okay.
so it matches the chart. And same thing works with the ask time permitted,
Yep.
as long as they match, because that's how they'll be discussed.
I can do that, no problem.
Good.
One that I'm very excited about is the affordable housing item that we added. And I'm going to go and make an impassioned plea at council, because I think this is going to be huge for us and for our city. I mean, we always complain about the Sacramento sends these plans down to us, and they're totally at odds with our local zoning. People don't understand this. They don't understand our neighborhood. And we always say, we can do better. But what they're doing, I mean, they're looking at where do you change these things? You change it at the zoning level. You change it at the code level. And we're the people who are expert at that. So I would really like the affordable housing item on our current goal to be actually almost more of a workshop. I think there's probably simple fixes we could do that would spur affordable housing construction. Minor things we could, change the requirement to connect to the sewer, which can be prohibitively expensive for ADUs. We could look at bigger things. This zoning is where the rubber hits the road, and that's where it happens. And I would love it if our year here this could be the biggest thing we do. So we always say we can do it better, but I'd rather not wait until Sacramento gives us the okay to do it better back in 2024 when it goes to vote. And we should do it better now. So if we can spur more affordable units, that will also cut into our no net loss when all of these housing element sites get approved, we're gonna have to upzone really quick. And it would be great if we didn't, because we had already put forth something that developed more housing. Now, I don't know exactly what the details are, but I think we're the ones to do it. And I would love us to put together a package of suggestions that we could send to council, and council could, we could step up. Let's do something big. So, and I'm not sure how that would affect the description of this item.
I want to be careful that we don't get into discussing the item because it's not noticed for tonight. So
Yeah.
we won't go back and forth on. So it's really a question of, I think.
I want it to be I want it to be a substantive.
I look at that priority and I don't automatically assume that it is a zoning issue. I assume it's a combination of a funding and a zoning issue, and probably more a funding issue. But to me, it's another case where I would look for the council to give us direction on what they're looking for there. So
Yeah, I just want them to know that I think this is the way they should be going. They should be saying, well, let's let Planning Commission come up with something. Let's let our planners come up with ways that we can adjust our own code to increase affordable housing
yeah, so
in
but
ways that the state's not doing.
yeah, and I think you're generalizing the item. If you look at item 10 on page 16, it's the increase affordable housing, and there's a clarification. Explore percentages of affordable housing, 50, 100%, tiny homes, near transit, commercial strip malls plan that create a positive vote, create tools to encourage affordable housing. So I think that they've given us some guidance
It'll be in there, but, so maybe you just got a preview of the impassioned plea I'll make to council.
Okay. But
Kevin, I agree with you that we want to get ahead of the state. The state seems to be dictating a lot to us because of a failure to act proactively. So I'd like to be proactive. I also agree with you, Bruce, that maybe we let the council make that priority, and I'd be happy to talk about it when it comes before us and is an agenda item.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question that my first time going through the whole process of work plan. Will we establish subcommittees, or how will we tackle these various topics?
Anna, do you want to take a stab at that, or do you want me to, or?
You can go ahead and I'll supplement.
Okay, thank you, because you can speak for staff, I can speak for past experience on the commission. Typically what happens is the items come back over the course of the year as, typically as time permits or as staff has time to write the reports. So this is a coordination tool between staff, city council, and planning commission so that staff can allocate their scarce time to the top priorities that the council and the planning commission want. So they'll come back periodically during the year as staff has developed the staff report. Was that close?
That was well said, yes.
Okay, thank you.
The priority is finding out city council's agreement to this work plan, and that kind of leads the first step in where staff goes, and then finding the available time to prepare the reports.
Basically, if we're further directed, we may wind up with subcommittees that look at specifics.
We would only generate a subcommittee if for some reason, the commission as a whole decided to authorize the subcommittee. We haven't done that maybe on one item or two items in my experience here. For the most part,
The bylaws, you and Glenn?
okay, there was, but that wasn't one of, well, maybe it was one of these priorities.
Yep.
Which, did we ever adopt those changes? Because I'm not sure we did.
I sure hope so. I seem to recall that we did.
So that was.
I've got it printed out at home. It's part of my files.
So, well, we could, but it wouldn't be something that we do here tonight a priori that assume, and it wouldn't be staff coming back saying, you need a subcommittee without us convening and saying, yes, we're going to, who's volunteering for the subcommittee, and then they would go off. So, but for the most part, most of these items in the past have been done by the entire commission. Okay, I did have one little change. It's got on page 5, I think it is, it's got the word inaugural report. And so this is the second one, so I think we can strike that. And that was it. And I think we discussed it, did we get into the, as time permits, the city practices around the expiration and extension of permits? Did that make it in here? I don't remember. I forget where it got relegated to. Oh, good. Yeah, when I read through it, I didn't remember seeing it. And that was one that in particular came from a email from Mayor Blakespear. So, and I agree with it. I think that's been a void in our processes that obviously has been there for 30 years because we had a project that had a 30-year-old approval. And I would love to have some automatic review so we don't end up with 10-year-old or 20-year-old, right? We had another project with a 20-year-old approval on it. And that's a bit stale for development.
Would that be under policy interpretations or a whole separate area?
I think it's kind of like the bluff determination process or the twin home lot variance. I think that would go under, what's the last, long-term goals. And if it turned out to be fairly easy, it could get pulled up into omnibus code cleanup potentially. Maybe that one's not quite that easy, but it's something I'd like to see on the goals, and I think, obviously, the mayor wrote us an email about it, so she wants to see it there too, so I think it's a good one to have there.
Yeah, because that was primarily, I mean, we had very clear language on the expiration of permits, and then we had vaguer information that we put in usually condition, our first or second condition, so
Yeah.
maybe that we just need to tweak one of those.
Well, and ultimately, I don't want to discuss
Yeah,
it
we'll
here,
get
but
to
yeah,
that, but yes, I
it's
agree.
something that
That's-
needs to be discussed.
I think it's good to have on the list. Lucky 13.
Any other questions for us, Anna?
No.
Okay. Any other comments, or should we vote to adopt the resolution and adopt the plan?
Well, just for the record, I just want to say that what Commissioner Doyle already voiced about the importance of increasing our affordable housing, I think it's a really important item that we got added onto here. So I just wanted to say that as far as I'm concerned, it's a very high priority, just for the record.
Okay.
Chair,
With that,
I did have one more thing. Sorry,
Okay,
you may
go
go
ahead.
first.
Go ahead.
Okay.
No, I think he was going for the motion.
Understood. We did state that that you, as the chair, were going to present to city council, and that would most likely be the first meeting in May.
Oh, okay.
So I just wanted to let you know that part, and that is part of the resolution as well, that you were designated for that.
I would move that we approve the item with the minor edits that we've discussed tonight.
Okay.
I will second.
Okay. And if there's no discussion, we'll call the question. Great. I think that passed. That went by so fast. Yeah, there it is. So that passed. And then we'll move right on. Are there any future agenda items to be added by planning commissioners?
I have an item, I'm not really sure where this fits, but it was brought up, the Bird's Eye Kitchen, I've heard about this through numerous people. It's like, it's an old story. It's like, oh my God, it's been 6 months, why isn't it moving forward? I'm wondering how many other smaller, relatively simple cases are hanging out in our planners' case files, and how much of a burden that can be, and I'm wondering if we shouldn't declare a day or two where everyone gets together and clears the books of a whole bunch of simple cases. I would love to see a nice packed consent calendar when we have our normal meetings. And I think it's some extra work for some people because things pile up, but it'd be so good to, it's the biggest complaint I get from anyone, any resident. And I've been a consultant and I had multiple jobs, and big jobs get big attention and little jobs get little attention, but they nag at you. And I don't want my planners feeling nagged at. I want them, let's try and this is, there's no action item on this other than I understand the pressure everyone's under there, but let's try and there's probably a whole bunch. We can just do the last little bit and send them here, and make a lot of people happy on both sides. That's it. Thanks.
So there was no proposed action out of that?
Nope.
Okay. Anything else?
Just a friendly nudge.
Are there any planning commissioner reports? Hearing none. City planner reports?
Yes, just a reminder, tomorrow is the Native Plant Ordinance joint session. That's with UFAC, the Commission, and City Council and the Environmental Commission. So that is tomorrow evening. And then on April 13th, at this time, is the continuation of the CIP budget discussion.
Okay.
And that begins at 3 p.m.
And then just once again, we're canceling April 7th.
Canceling
Planning
April
Commission.
7th Planning Commission. That is
All right,
correct.
is that April, is the CIP meeting happening here in Chambers, do you think, or?
Yes.
Cool, thanks.
And is tomorrow night's meeting in the Carnation Room?
Poinsettia
Poinsettia.
at 6 p.m.
Where's Poinsettia? The one next door.
Yes,
Okay,
the
sorry.
overflow.
Okay.
Can you clarify with the April 13th, is that a joint session or is that just an information for us to know that they're doing that?
It's a continuation from the last one, so I can find out and email the commission about that.
Well, but it's not a planning commission meeting.
No.
It's a notice continuation of the city council meeting.
So there's no requirement for our presence there.
Only if you want to show up and advocate for your favorite CIP. So,
And that is all that is on my list.
and let's see, well, then we're up to adjournment. Thank you. And our next regularly scheduled meeting is April 21st. And so this meeting is now adjourned to the regular Planning Commission meeting of April 21st at 6 p.m. Thank you.